Yeah, yeah.
This is the best.
Yeah.
Other countries don't talk about it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's so big to be.
Even you have mentors, you can go really go to
I also think once you leave school, you've had kind of someone in school or a mentor or someone there kind of guiding you the whole way. Like children leave school, and then yes, you're parents, but you don't know any research on what parents are. That's then you with mentors in the world. We don't really talk about it in school enough to be. I mean, things we get taught in school don't really relate to them when we do our so that would be.
I have grandchildren and I can see
talking about mental more about it means representation and misinformation, misconceptions, twisted interpretation of the
Also, still with that, you need a frame. If a child needs to do this service and this service, for that child to then get extra help because it needs to be funded by someone. So there has to be evidence. Everything is black and white. Sometimes they do. So I think every job should have somewhere where you can go off with this.
But you're talking about system.
Yeah, so I'm going to write it here. I think it's too easy nowadays to go to the doctors and just get pills. I feel depression pills. It's easy. It's very easy. It is very easy.
Hello everyone, that's a little bit enough now for the beginning. We're going to come back again to this issue, but I wanted you to really hear a most amazing young lady. She's young compared to me, definitely. Yeah, her name is Elham Fardad. She is senior manager in Ernst & Young. And she herself has gone through a lot of things, like trials and anxieties during her teenage years. But when we were talking together, she just wanted everybody to know that, you know, you don't have mental health issues because you're a loser. Anybody, a banking, you know, chairman, you know, of the banking world can have mental health issues. The most successful person. Look at the sister of Dina. She was going, doing, working, studying, you know. It's not necessarily, everybody has this problem. So I want Elham to really come and share with us in a unique way. Elham is also a partner to UPF, because together, I would say she's doing most of the work, but we're helping her to put this huge mentoring program for young migrants that she's doing. She really believes in helping others, now that God has helped her to get where she is, and she's a wonderful lady. Please welcome Elham.
Hello everyone. As Margaret very informatively introduced me already, my name is Elham Fardad. I'm a senior manager at Ernst & Young Finance Advisory Practice. And about just over a year ago, I launched a charity program for migrant leaders, which, as Margaret explained, is designed to help young migrants fulfill their potential in this country. We do this through three things. First of all, one-to-one mentors. Margaret doesn't know, but my update since we last spoke, which wasn't a long time ago, is I've recruited a further 35 VP, Director and MD grade mentors from top 15 firms in London. They're ready to take on talented young migrants, and the number of mentors is going up. Who grateful to science, to be grateful to the people around you. Whatever you believe in, just make sure you have beliefs. Beliefs in something much more important and bigger than ourselves. Place. No resistance and no one. So Birmingham City to be able to, but always gave mind. I thought making sacrifice potential means you must suffer. I suffered for 10 years. I made sure I suffer. I blame myself. I blame my younger brother. I felt responsible for everything. The former age of 25, because he said, suffer to get potential, you must suffer to succeed. Are you sure you got here and achieved so much because of suffering, your suffering, or in spite of your suffering? Yeah. And in that moment, I realized, oh my God, of course, that didn't mean suffering, he meant sacrifice. So from that moment, I started taking mental health. I was and training myself, and I sure other successful, then I've achieved nothing. So for me to do that and achieve that well, yes, I do make sacrifices to this day, but sacrifices that I enjoy, such as migrant leaders. And I am no longer, I'm glad to report, I am no longer suffering. You know? When I look back at the last 23 years of my work, actually the times that I have performed really well were times that I wasn't suffering, that I felt confident, I felt courage, I felt happy. And actually, it was times that I had better balance in life. I went to the gym a couple of times a week, I socialized a little bit, I kept in touch with my best friend, you know, some of the things I was living. I got married, had 2 kids, you know, so a little bit of balance and happiness does wonders for success actually. So my last message before I leave this stage is success is nothing without mental health and happiness. And success is worth nothing without helping others. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elham, for those massively inspiring words. Moving on with the hackathon, I went to each of your tables. There's some fantastic barriers and so forth. It's great to see so much being written down. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start from the table at the back, on the back of the left over there. And each of the tables, could someone from that table stand up and tell us 1 or 2 barriers that they came up with that they think are an issue to mental health. So, without further ado, someone at the back.
Hello. Hello. Which ones do you reckon is best to say? These days, everyone's too busy. There's not enough quality time spent with people. And when you are with everyone in a room, there's about 4 people like this on their phones. So I feel that is a big issue. It's not the stigma, but it's also nobody's actually talking to their family, even in their homes. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really big issue.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's very easy to get pills and medicine from the NHS and from doctors and that to be just chucked depression pills and this and that, and not actually get told how to change your lifestyle and how to develop yourself as a person rather than just taking pills.
Fantastic, thank you. Moving swiftly on, next table.
So we came up with, firstly, from a male perspective, there's a match of sort of male culture where you maybe don't want to bring it up amongst a group of males, or in your own gender sense, you feel bad about talking about those kind of things. And we also came up with the fear of how manufacturing employability, so coming out with information such as mental health.
The fear of
Fear of
Employability.
employability, so it might affect how you're perceived by potential employers, and a lot of people maybe don't or hold back from talking about those things because of those reasons.
Fantastic, thank you.
Your table, Bonnie.
Who wants to go?
Yourself? Don't be shy. We're all friends here.
Oh, this is our table.
You guys, yeah?
We can study.
Okay, get the next table if I have.
Next table, because we did.
Next table, alright, we'll come back to you. Yourselves?
One of the issues is what in mental health is called parity or esteem, where mental health has not got the esteem that other medical issues are within the society. So it's now that the government is realising that mental health needs to be a bit more recognised as equal to other things like cancer or all the other well-known medical things too. And then the other one, which one should we go for? Yeah, so one is like the fear of judgment from other people, and also that is lined up with social stigma, because when you hear someone has got mental health problems, people tend to stay away from you because either they fear that you might attack them or do something against them. And that's it, basically.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Moving swiftly on. Anything else? No? Alright, yep.
Alright, I can answer first. Yeah, one thing that we also thought about is kind of the kind of values that we as a society uphold these days. So something I've been studying a lot is how we've got a society filled with junk values, you know, with like consumerism quite rife, and how it's always about upgrading to the next car, the next phone. I know it's like, yeah, to be happy it's like a process of leveling up or something like that, but never finding kind of peace with where you're at, you know, at the moment, and finding that kind of stability. That's something that we thought as well.
I'm moving up from the iPhone 5 to the iPhone 12 and 13 and 24.
Is that table ready?
Next table? Yeah. Oh, you guys ready? Alright, perfect.
I'm gonna have a bash. So, I'm just reading what's on here. I think one of the things we mentioned is what would people kind of think of you if you've got a mental health problem? And there are some of us that come from a particular culture where if you have a mental health problem, you're labelled forever. So because people kind of know that that can be a result of admitting they have a mental health problem, then they kind of go undercover. Okay? So what would people say? We talked about wrote the shame. Trying to get this right here. It will be posted on Facebook. Didn't even want to mention Facebook today. So, you know, not feeling valued, scared of not being accepted, anxiety, I'm trying to read people's writing and I can't. Being misunderstood, low self-esteem and self-worth, and it makes you feel different, more difficult to fit in. Have I missed anybody's out?
That sounds good, right?
Yeah?
Fantastic, very well done. Moving swiftly on to the next table.
We were talking about the generation gap of the stresses that the elder generation had, or maybe still do have, to the younger generations, and the bridge is quite big between the two. And we were talking a lot about education and learning difficulties when it comes within school life. I do feel it's changing as being a teacher myself. But it's still what you can say and how you can say it and how open you can be. Spoke a lot about shame and low self-esteem, and I think a big one that we all kind of resonate with is high expectations of what we can do to ourselves and what's expected from other people, and how to bridge the gap between the two to feel a bit more human.
Fantastic. And last but by no means least, of course.
Hi everyone, so we kind of covered most of the points, but just to kind of go into a bit more the media representation of mental health, which I think we covered in terms of schools and education, So there's probably still not enough public awareness. I do think as well that it is getting better. But I think a point you mentioned before too was regarding kind of fear of, you know, will this person attack me? Is this person going to be violent or destructive in any way? So that's a major barrier. And then also the kind of label piece, which was mentioned earlier, it kind of defines who they are, becomes part of them, and people maybe don't want to engage with that. And linking that into, for example, in a family situation, you talked about social classes. So in certain cultures, it might be that we don't want to be associated with that, and it damages the reputation of the family, so we'll kind of hide it and put it to the side. Yeah.
Fantastic. All very well done. Some amazing barriers that have come out there, you know, from employability to our own mentality, to our own perception, things around schools, the media. I'm so glad has come up, because I think Western media in general has quite a bit to answer for a variety of different things. And it just shows how many issues there are around even just beginning to talk about mental health, let alone starting to actually deal with it, but just being able to openly have a conversation around it and actually being able to deal with these problems just within ourselves and within our own communities, friends, family and so forth. Just there are so many different barriers, and it's fantastic that you guys all came up with those. Now we're going to move on from the negativity and so forth. We're going to have a bit of a exam scenario, so apologies for any of those that are still in schools that I might be going through exams at the moment, so this might bring back some of those sort of stressful memories. But for 2 minutes, each of you have sticky notes in front of you, so if you can share those out amongst your table. Don't be shy, take as many as you want. And the idea is for 2 minutes, in complete silence, no cheating, no looking over at your partner, none of that. And for lack of a better terminology, I would like you to creatively vomit onto these sheets of paper. Literally go for every single crazy idea that you may think of to deal with one or more of those barriers that maybe your group came up with or you heard somewhere else. You literally want to write down every single idea that you could potentially think of. Doesn't matter how ridiculous or how outrageous or how crazy it may sound, write it down. Just a couple of words. You don't have to write down the full-blown idea straight away because you've only got 2 minutes. Just a couple of words that will make you think back to what that idea was. But the idea is to try and literally don't bar yourself. Be as creative as you can possibly imagine. And just to give you a couple of examples, we did this in a pupil referral unit down in Croydon about how to engage young people in politics and how to get them starting to think about how politics impacts them. And one of the students sort of wrote down that what we should do is contact fast food chains, especially KFC, because you like KFC, and they, at the bottom of the buckets, when you finish the bucket, they should have political facts written at the bottom, which kind of sounds like an interesting idea, but how in practice that would work, I'm not entirely sure, but it just gives you an idea of how creative you can possibly be. Anything that comes to your head, write it down on those sticky notes and then stick it on the big sheets of white paper that you've got in front of you, alright? So you're going to have 2 minutes, starting. Is everyone ready? No, you can write down as many as you want on the sticky note, and then stick it on there. Whichever you want. You can tackle one stigma, you can tackle one barrier, you can tackle many barriers. It's whatever comes into your head to deal with one of those. It's solutions now we're talking about. So think. Yeah, it can be from your table, it can be from what you've heard. It's any of the barriers that you've heard or that your table has come up with. You are now thinking of creative solutions to deal with those problems. And as I said, you can be as creative as you want. 2 minutes, complete silence, rather than every single thing that comes to your head. Is everyone ready? Yep. Yeah? Starting now.